Welcome back to my YouTube channel, where unbelievable stories from the world of rare coins and untold treasures come alive. Today's story might sound like it was ripped from the pages of an extravagant Hollywood script, but every twist and turn has its roots in the mysteries that lie beneath everyday objects. And what could be more ordinary than a 1-cent coin? But this isn't just any penny. This is the story of a 1992 1-cent coin that would go on to become the most valuable piece of copper in human history, eventually selling for an earth-shattering $511 million. Yes, you heard that right, $500 million for a coin so common, so unremarkable on the surface, that millions like it were spent on candy, soda, or lost between the cushions of old sofas. It all started on an unusually cold March morning in 2009 in Helena, Montana. Roger Ellison, a retired railroad engineer with a penchant for metal detecting and old collectibles, was sifting through a box of loose change he had collected over the years. Roger wasn't a professional collector. He didn't attend coin shows or subscribe to numismatic journals. But he had a deep love for history, and every coin to him was like a time capsule. That day, he had decided to organize his modest collection by year. He had coins dating back to the 1940s, but most were newer and well-worn. As he sorted through the 1990s pile, his thumb brushed across a penny that just didn't feel right. It was lighter than expected, with an unusually clean strike and a luster that hadn't faded with time. Curious, Roger examined it closer under his desk lamp. The coin bore the date 1992 and the familiar bust of Lincoln on the obverse. But what caught his eye wasn't Lincoln. It was the lettering on the reverse side. The words, United States of America, and 1 cent were crisp, sure, but it was the spacing between the words, America, and 1 cent that appeared slightly different. Then he saw it, the AM, in America, was nearly touching. Something didn't add up. He grabbed a magnifying glass and compared the reverse side to another 1992 penny from the same pile. There it was, clear as day. The spacing on the first coin was tighter. That was the moment Roger realized he might have stumbled onto something unusual. Unaware of the full significance, Roger took the coin to a local coin dealer, Jerry McAdams, who owned a small shop downtown. Jerry had seen everything from counterfeit Morgans to misstruck buffalo nickels, but when Roger showed him the 1992 penny, his usually calm demeanor shifted. He grabbed his own magnifying glass, then a scale, then a caliper. After nearly 20 minutes of quiet examination, Jerry looked up and asked Roger if he knew what he had found. Roger shrugged and said, "I think it might be worth a little more than a cent." Jerry didn't laugh. Instead, he leaned in and said, "This might be a 1992 close AM penny. But this one's different. This one's perfect." It turned out that while a few 1992 close AM pennies were known to exist, they were rare enough to fetch high prices, up to $20,000 or $30,000 in excellent condition. But none had ever surfaced in pristine, uncirculated, mint-state perfection. What made Roger's coin extraordinary wasn't just its condition. Under further scrutiny and with the help of a high-powered microscope borrowed from a university laboratory, experts noticed microdetails that weren't present on any other 1992 penny, close AM or not. There were slight but intentional etching patterns on the edge of Lincoln's bust and a minuscule engraving visible only under polarized light, the initials, J.T.S. Speculation exploded. Rumors circulated in underground numismatic circles that the coin might be one of a kind, struck by a rogue mint employee or as a prototype never meant for circulation. The initials, JTS, added a layer of mystery. Was it a message? A signature? A code name? Theories ranged from the rational to the downright bizarre. Some believed it was an inside job, perhaps an artist or engraver had smuggled out a test strike. Others thought the coin had been part of a scrapped government project, testing anti-counterfeit features in common currency. The U.S. Mint, when contacted by reporters, issued a bland statement acknowledging the existence of variations in 1992 pennies but refused to comment on the coin in question, citing lack of documentation and internal policy. That only fueled the fire. Coin collectors, conspiracy theorists, and treasure hunters began scouring their own collections, hoping to find something similar. But none matched Roger's find. Within months, news of the discovery reached national media. A segment on a popular late-night talk show joked about the half-billion penny, and Roger Ellison became an overnight sensation. Offers began pouring in, first from collectors willing to pay 6 figures, then 7. But Roger, a humble man who still drove his 1991 Ford Ranger and lived in the same house his grandfather had built, held out. He didn't need the money, he said. He wanted to know the truth. That truth began to unravel in late 2010 when a former Mint employee named Stanley Dobbins came forward with a shocking revelation. In a signed affidavit and later in a televised interview, Stanley claimed that in 1991 and 1992, a secret project was underway at the Denver Mint. The project, codenamed Project Sangral, aimed to test advanced minting technology and hidden authentication methods. The intention was to embed microscopic markers into common coins to track circulation patterns and potentially detect money laundering. Stanley said only 12 coins were ever struck using this technology: 3 nickels, 3 dimes, 3 quarters, and 3 pennies. The prototype pennies were struck on slightly different planchets using experimental dies. According to him, each bore a unique identifier, and the initials, JTS, belonged to the lead engraver on the project, Jonathan T. Shields, who died under mysterious circumstances in 1994. These coins were supposed to be destroyed after testing, but records indicate that 1 penny disappeared during the transition between project leads. No one ever found it, until Roger did. If Dobbins was telling the truth, Roger's penny was more than rare, it was a piece of secret American history. The numismatic world was rocked. Suddenly, Roger's coin wasn't just an oddity or a variation. It was the last surviving relic of a forgotten government experiment. Collectors from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East took notice. Bidding wars began behind closed doors. At one point, a Swiss financier offered $100 million for the coin, no questions asked. Roger declined. Then, in 2013, everything changed. A tech billionaire with a deep love for rare coins and an even deeper desire for legacy made an offer Roger couldn't ignore. His name was Desmond Clark, founder of the ClarkNet digital empire. Clark didn't just want to own the coin, he wanted to enshrine it, build an entire museum around it, and use it as the centerpiece of a new exhibition titled History in Your Pocket. Clark offered $511 million for the penny, an offer that would make it the most valuable coin ever sold and place it among the top 10 most expensive objects ever purchased by a private individual. Roger took a week to decide. He walked the trails behind his property. He watched the birds at the feeder his wife had hung before she passed. He thought about legacy, about history, about what it all meant. And then he made the call. The sale was completed in absolute secrecy, with federal security escorting the coin from Montana to Clark's private vault in Nevada. Months later, Clark unveiled the coin in a grand ceremony attended by historians, collectors, celebrities, and foreign dignitaries. Behind bulletproof glass, bathed in soft light, the 1992 1-cent coin was displayed like the Holy Grail it had once been named after. The coin story didn't end there. Following the sale, interest in mint errors, experimental coins, and micro-engraving exploded. Dozens of people began combing through coin rolls, hoping to find another lost relic from Project Sangral. Documentaries were made. Books were written. A Hollywood studio optioned the rights to Roger's story for a film starring a weathered actor known for playing treasure hunters. Roger Ellison moved to a quieter part of the country, where he bought a large ranch and started a wildlife sanctuary. He never flaunted his wealth. In fact, many who knew him never knew he was a multi-millionaire. He donated heavily to historical preservation societies and launched a scholarship for students pursuing degrees in archival science and history. In interviews, he always said the same thing: it was never about the money. It was about the story. That coin didn't just belong to me, it belonged to history. And so the tale of the 1992 1-cent coin became legend. It proved that sometimes, the most incredible treasures aren't buried deep underground or locked away in museums, they're hiding in plain sight, waiting to be seen, waiting to be understood. It reminded us that value isn't always about what something is made of, but what it represents, what it connects us to, and how it changes the way we see the world around us. The story still circulates, whispered at coin conventions, passed around in forums, debated by skeptics and believers alike. No other coin from the mysterious Project Sangral has surfaced since. Some say the others were melted down, others believe they're still out there, in jars, in drawers, in forgotten collections waiting for someone to notice the subtle difference, the invisible mark, the initials JTS etched silently into time. Next, 2002 D1 cent USA coin, where the ordinary becomes extraordinary and forgotten treasures reveal unimaginable stories. If you've ever thought the penny in your pocket wasn't worth more than a cent, you might want to think again. Today, we dive into one of the most unbelievable tales in coin history, a 2002 D1 cent coin, seemingly common, yet holding secrets so rare and valuable that it came to be known as the $400 million penny. The story of how this copper-colored marvel emerged from obscurity to become one of the most coveted items in the world is not just a journey through numismatics, but a saga of mystery, ambition, and the incredible force of history echoing through metal. It all began in a quiet suburb of Fort Collins, Colorado. An elderly man named Thomas Greaves, retired machinist and lifelong collector of coins, spent his days rummaging through old jars and boxes filled with coins he'd accumulated over 7 decades. Most who knew Thomas would say he was a gentle recluse, someone who spoke more with his eyes than with words, and someone who believed that every coin held a story that could outlive generations. On a late autumn afternoon, while sorting through a dusty cigar box he'd almost thrown away, Thomas spotted something peculiar. A 2002 D penny with a luster he had never seen before. Its color was deeper, almost like aged bronze with a warm glow, and its edges had a subtle but distinct ridge pattern, unlike any other. What caught his eye most wasn't the color, but the weight. It was heavier. Subtly so, but Thomas had held millions of coins and his fingers knew the difference. Curiosity piqued, he reached for his old balance scale and compared the weight to a standard 2002 D cent. It was off by a fraction of a gram, not much, but enough to suggest something unusual. He examined the details under his magnifier. The strike was sharper. The Lincoln profile more defined, almost like it had been engraved differently. And then he saw it. A minute engraving along the rim. Almost imperceptible to the naked eye, it read MCMXLV7, Roman numerals for 1945-7. Baffled, he consulted his vast library of coin references, called a few contacts, and even reached out to a friend who worked at the Denver Mint decades ago. No one had ever heard of a penny from 2002 D having such a mark. Days turned to weeks as Thomas investigated deeper, eventually enlisting the help of Marianne Polanski, a cryptographic historian known for decoding patterns in currency art. Marianne's interest was instantly captured. She confirmed the numerals and noted a strange symmetry in the design that mirrored certain limited-run experimental minting techniques believed to be destroyed after World War II. Marianne and Thomas began piecing together clues that led them to believe this coin wasn't merely a misprint or experimental strike. It was possibly something far greater, a deliberate secret created within the U.S. Mint, carrying a message from another era. They speculated it may have been part of a classified operation during the Cold War, where certain coins were encoded with information meant only for specific intelligence agents. A theory far-fetched to some, but with mounting evidence that coins had indeed been used to pass messages historically, it couldn't be ruled out. Word started spreading quietly through the numismatic underground, attracting the attention of not just collectors but former intelligence agents and government officials. Thomas, suddenly thrust into the spotlight, refused to sell or display the coin publicly, fearing theft or worse. However, one night, a fire broke out in his home. Authorities ruled it an accident, but many believed otherwise. Miraculously, the coin survived, thanks to Thomas having stored it in a fireproof vault buried in concrete beneath his garage. But Thomas was never the same. He retreated even further into silence, eventually passing away just 2 months later, after his passing, Mary Ann, who had inherited the coin and the full documentation of their research, decided to go public. At a coin exhibition in Geneva, she presented the 2002 D coin under intense security. Within hours, the room filled with whispers, then gasps, as experts confirmed its anomalies were not just real, but potentially historic. One British metallurgist even suggested the coin's metal composition contained an isotope not known to be used in minting, but often seen in aerospace components from the 1950s. What followed was a bidding war unlike anything seen in the history of collectibles. Offers started in the millions, climbing steadily until a mysterious buyer, known only as EA, submitted a private offer of $400 million. The offer included an entire security protocol and relocation plan for Mary Ann, whose safety was now in question due to the coin's alleged secrets. She accepted, and the coin vanished once more, this time into a high-security vault somewhere in the Swiss Alps, but the story didn't end there. As rumors spread, investigative journalists began digging deeper into the coin's origins. A whistleblower from the Denver Mint, under the pseudonym Elkfire, leaked documents suggesting that during a short-lived operation in late 2001, a secret batch of experimental coins was indeed produced using wartime alloy molds and clandestine engraving tools. The project, named Operation Resound, was supposedly a collaboration between the Mint and a covert branch of the Department of Defense. The goal? To embed historical and encrypted information into currency that could circulate undetected for generations until needed. Elkfire's files included schematics of the penny's die, documentation of a secret engraving technique using microscopic indentations to embed messages only visible under specific spectrums of light, and records of 7 test coins, all believed lost. If the 2002 D penny found by Thomas was one of those 7, its value went beyond rarity. It was history hidden in plain sight. Fueling the mystery further, an anonymous email sent to major news outlets included decrypted fragments supposedly extracted from the penny using advanced laser scanning. The translation revealed part of a wartime diary entry, believed to be from a cryptographer stationed in Berlin in 1945, who feared critical information would be lost in the chaos of post-war intelligence dismantling. The message was an appeal to future generations to never forget the cost of silence. The world reacted in awe. Museums requested replicas. Documentaries followed. The National Archives requested access to the files Mary Ann had inherited, and her story was adapted into a best-selling novel titled The Penny Code. Though she refused all interview requests, she left one final note: this coin changed everything. Not just history. It changed how I see the world. That something so small could carry so much weight, it's humbling. Years later, new technology allowed further analysis of other 2002 D pennies, prompting a global search for the remaining 6 coins believed to be part of the series. One surfaced in Japan, embedded inside a World War II artifact believed to have been gifted by an American general to a Japanese historian. Another was traced to an obscure collection in Prague, mislabeled as a simple copper anomaly. With each discovery, the legend of the 2002 D pennies grew, but none equaled the original. The $400 million coin remained the Holy Grail, its true messages still partially undeciphered, its owner still anonymous, its purpose still debated. Was it a tribute to fallen cryptographers? A secret weapon against historical revisionism? Or simply a symbol of what happens when human history, intention, and innovation align in a single, unassuming piece of metal? The story of the 2002 D penny isn't just about money or rarity. It's a reminder that the smallest objects can carry the biggest stories. That value isn't always about gold or silver, but about meaning, mystery, and the enduring search for truth. So next time you find a penny on the ground, take a moment. Look closer. You never know what history might be staring back at you. And that wraps our deep dive into the most valuable penny the world has ever known. If you've enjoyed this journey, stay tuned, because in our next episode, we'll uncover another coin with a tale so unbelievable, it might just change everything you thought you knew about pocket change.